Good day and welcome to FDM, the channel dedicated to Ferra data models. Today I want to give you a quick overview about what this app is all about. To do that, I'm going to show you how to download and plot and tabulate the United States GDP, and then also how to compare that to the GDP of South Africa. This is a great app for the analysis of time series, specifically econometric time series, and also to build models with. And in this overview we're going to do all of that. First time you start it up, the app will present you with a welcome screen. It will also ask you to register at some point. Now, and then you get to the main screen. Down here your CSV files will end up, and up there in that section you will see your projects. So I'm going to create a new project by clicking on the new button. Here you can see all the different frequencies, and a project consists of files for analysis or models in all these different frequencies, and I'm going to be mostly working in the quarterly frequency because the GDP figures I'm interested in are quarterly. Okay, so let's add the US GDP. I'm going to download that from Ferra. Just switch this iPad into dark mode so that this recording will be a bit more dramatic. Okay, so let's go back to Ferra. Now I'm looking for GDP. So I type in the key word in there, or the key phrase. It's downloading from GDP, and these are all the things that come up based on that search. This is the one I'm looking for, and I'm going to add that to my project. Now it's downloading that data from Ferra, and there we go. It's available in the project. I can inspect the data, change the properties. For example, how do I want to aggregate this by default or accumulate it by default, and so on. For now, I'm not going to use that screen. I'm going to create a report. So I'm going to drag this into the report area. If I drag it into this area, it will create a new report, as you can see here. If I open this report, I see the GDP. There you see the level of GDP, and below in fine print you see the percentage change per year, or the year-on-year percentage change. And there, right at the bottom, I can see a plot of this GDP, which also shows me how it's moved over the time, the levels as well as the percentage change. Okay, and I can now change the formatting a bit. So I could maybe add to this also a second accumulation. That small little figure below the level is called an accumulation. At this point, the first accumulation is the year-on-year percentage change. Let's also add a second one, which will be the quarter-on-quarter annualized change. Okay, so now I've got that. It's created 2 pages for me because it's getting a bit big, and now I've got 2 figures there, the year-on-year change and the quarter-on-quarter annualized change. There you can see those figures, and I can look at that. Let's go to the second page. Maybe I want to add that to the plot. So let's go to the plot and say the second accumulation, also plot that for me. So there's going to be a small little line, which is that shows me the quarter-on-quarter annualized changes. Okay, so that's how I would look at GDP, and I can change the formatting. Now let's add South African GDP to this report. That I'm going to download from StatsSA. So I'm going to the StatsSA website. First it will give a list of all the publications released by StatsSA. So let's look for GDP, and there we go. This is it. Now the StatsSA is a bit different to Ferra. I can't pick individual series. I have to choose a release, and then out of that I can select series. Now, of course, this one P0441, I've got a lot of series in it. As you can see, it's made up of quite a number of series, but I just want the suggestions. These are the suggestions by FDM, and that's right on the money. Those are the ones I'm looking for. Now I'm looking for the level figure. So the rand million figure, this is the one I'm looking for. I'm going to add that to my project. Okay, so now this was downloaded from Statsys A, and I want to add this to the report, so I drag it into the report. And if I now go to the report, I see the US GDP levels, and then here I see, and its accumulations, and here I see the South African GDP, and as soon as there's enough data, I see the accumulation there. I'm particularly interested in comparing the accumulation or the percentage change in US to South African GDP. So let me do a number of things. I'm going to change the US GDP a bit. I'm not going to show the levels. I'm only going to show the year-on-year changes, and I'm going to call this simply USA, because this is the GDP coming from the USA. Alright? Then for South Africa, I'm going to do pretty much the same. Switch off the levels, give it a different label, and the first accumulation will be the year-on-year percentage change, and that is what I want to see. So if I go back here, I can see there on the top line, you see the USA GDP figure, and in the bottom you see the South African GDP figure. Okay, and I'll fix up the plot in a moment. Now maybe I want to, it just gives me one label up there, and I must know the two lines are one for the US, one for South Africa. Maybe I can change that formatting a bit, change the layout so that the row headers don't appear in the header but in the actual lines themselves. So now each line consists of a header, which is the date, and then the two lines that you see there. Maybe let's add some grid to this to separate the lines a bit more clearly. Maybe I can separate the quarters as well, and there you go. Those are the kind of things I can do. Let's also change the range. Maybe I want the table only to be from let's say 2010. I'm only interested in the last couple of years in the table. The plot I'll keep to the full so that I can see as much data as possible there. Okay, so there we go. Now with all these lines, I can actually put those titles back up in the heading. So let's change the layout of the table again, and let's put the row headers into the header. Okay, so there you go, and you can see how the US has grown and so on. Let's just change the plot now. Just want to keep the plot in view. So let's change the plot, and for the US, I'm not going to plot levels, I'm only going to plot the first accumulation. Same for South Africa. For South Africa, I'm not going to plot the levels, only the first accumulation. And now if I look at it, there I can see the two lines. Let's label them. So this one, I want this label to be USA in the plot, and for South Africa I want to label the accumulation also RSA. Okay, so now my plot looks a bit better. Oh, I missed that one. What did I do? Let's try again. This one. Okay, so now I've got the plot. I could change the colors or the line styles. For now I'm happy with that. Maybe I'll change the title, and let's change the title of the table and call it GDP, because it's the GDP of the different countries, and the heading maybe is the year-on-year growth rate that I'm tabulating, and the same in the plot. So here I'm going to say it's the year-on-year percentage change per quarter. So maybe here I would like to say quarterly. There we go. Okay, so now things are to my liking, and I've also given you an idea of what you can do with FTM. You can now export this as a PDF maybe and send it to somebody if you want, or do some more work on this if you need to. But what I want to do now is to see if there is a correlation between these two lines, really between these two GDPs. Does the USA cause growth in South Africa? Okay, so let's build a model for that. I'm going to add a new calculation. This calculation is going to be a quarterly one. Okay, and my X variable in this case is going to be the change in the log of, let me just select a data series, US GDP, which is this one coming from Fred. The red color code tells me it comes from Fred. This one, the Y1 or dependent one, is going to be the change in log of South African GDP. So I'm not looking at the quarter-on-quarter growth rates, but really I'm looking at the percentage, the change in log levels. And I want to see if there is a correlation between these two. Now I want to also see at what lag this is the most. The idea being that growth in the US will spill over to South Africa, and after a quarter or two, South Africa will pick up some of that growth and we will see an increase in our growth. That's more or less what I'm testing. So let's get going. So the maximum correlation at the moment is 0. The maximum lag is 0. And I'm just going to loop across lags and calculate the correlation at each lag between those two series, and then note where it reaches a maximum. Okay, so then I need to store the results. So let's create the results. Let's call it a correlation matrix. And this will be a matrix with a couple of those. Now, how many lags will we look at? Let's say let's call it N. Let's say we're going to look at 20 lags. Right, from 0 to 20. 0 to 20, that means I need 21 rows in my matrix. I define a matrix like this, that's the number of rows. And how many columns? Well, the first column I use for the lag, and the second column for the correlation. So I'm going to need 2 columns. So now this variable contains a matrix with 21 rows and 2 columns. Okay, so at the moment the lag is 0, and let's start looping. I'm going to say while that lag is less than or equal the maximum number of lags, do the following. First of all, calculate the correlation as the correlation between South African GDP and US GDP lagged by the number of lags. Okay. Now, if that reaches a new maximum, so if that is greater than the maximum current correlation, then execute the following. Now, if-then statement works like this: if, then else. So to keep everything in the then statement, I'm just going to bracket it. So if I reach a new maximum, note that maximum, note the maximum number of lags, note the maximum correlation, and that's it. Okay, now I'm almost done. I just want to store it into the matrix. So in the matrix, the first entry is the row, which is the lags plus 1, because lag starts at 0. And then the column will be column 1, and there I'm going to store the lag. Then in the next column, I'm going to store the correlation, and that's it. Okay. Finally, I need to go to the next lag. Then, when I'm done, I can simply print it out. Let's just print out the correlation matrix, which contains the lags and the correlation, and let's also print out the maximum. Maximum correlation reached at, and the maximum lag. Okay, so now with that done, I can run this calculation, and when it's done, I can look at the log and there we go. There I can see the correlations, and I can see that the maximum correlation is 33% at 1 lag. So it seems that the biggest impact South Africa feels is after 1 lag. If US growth is lagged by 1, then I get the maximum impact on South African GDP. Well, that's it. I'm done with this demonstration. I've shown you how to download from Fred and Statis A, how to put that into a report, and also a little bit about the calculating capabilities of FTE. And we'll continue with this in the next video. I hope you enjoy the app.